Hello and welcome to SW6 Essential. The smiles are on the faces. We have to talk Fulham. Well, we have to talk Fulham. We have to talk Fulham against Spurs last night. Joe Sansom, 1-1 away from home. You'd have taken that all day.
Really, really pleased, really happy. I think anyone watching this can probably tell we're really still feeling good the next day after the result. We're filming this the day after the Spurs game, and it was a game I went into with, not sure about yourself, but even though we've been playing quite well, probably quite low expectations due to all the uncertainty around when it was going to get played, which we'll get into. But I was just delighted with the performance, and the result is the cherry on top because we're 2 points off safety. We've got 2 games in hand. And yes, there's a little bit of goal difference to sort out, but we're playing Brighton soon, and there's a lot of reasons to be cheerful right now.
It's hotting up, I'll tell you that for a fact. The last time we spoke on screen was last Monday, and I was thinking we're just going to do one on Monday again. But then the news came in, the Spurs game will be on Wednesday, so we thought let's just do it Thursday and talk about all the shenanigans that went on in the build-up today. But Joe, what I'm going to start with was we just talked about just before we went live. The coverage last night from Amazon Prime was superb. Not only did you have Ali McCoist, who is my favourite co-com of all time because he's just so energetic and excited about everything, and Peter Drury, he's a fantastic commentator who obviously did the semi-final against Hamburg, but also the build-up with Gabby Logan, Matt Holland and Lee Dixon was just superb. It's so refreshing, and it sounds ridiculous saying this because these are professional pundits, but pundits who are on mainstream TV, and usually with Sky and BBC and ITV and BT Sport, you don't get that like satisfaction of them speaking about us in the context of what's been going on and them making any sense. Like, I feel like if I listened to the podcast, I'd get more. Obviously, I would get more, but these are like pundits who should know what they're talking about. But last night, we really felt that Matt Holland and Lee Dixon had done their research on not only Spurs, but Fulham, and would genuinely, like, it blew me away how they were talking about us because, for me, it just felt nice for people to know the system, know what we've been through, and just like, I thought it was great. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I think the main thing you said there is that the research, it should be such a simple thing for commentators to do their research, but it hasn't really happened. And even the match of the day punditry that I watched after the game was just quite boring, to be honest. It's the same old stuff. It's more on what Spurs did wrong rather than what we did right. And throughout the whole game, I thought that the punditry and the commentary was fair, was balanced for both teams. Talked about where we'd gone right this season, where we'd gone wrong, same for Spurs. And they were also, which obviously will help, they were quite complimentary of us, which makes a change because I don't think there's a vendetta against us or anything, but I think a lot of the times we maybe don't get some of the credit we deserve for turning an awful start to the season around. I mean, we were dreadful for those first 3 games, and that's what we have to remember. It was just 3 games, but a lot of the broadcasters seem to have just tarnished us with the same brush for the rest of the season, thinking, oh, well, they are, they're rubbish at the back, etc. Amazon Prime, got to say, first team that I really thought had hit the nail on the head with how we've turned it around, why we've turned it around, and gave a lot of credit to Scott Parker, which I thought was very well deserved.
It's a beautiful segue because we're going to talk about the title. Parker points and positives. Mainly because I was trying to come up with a title for the video, and I feel like, and I've said it in previous videos, we haven't talked enough about Scott Parker, and obviously he's been in the limelight this week because of what's been going on. The points, because we've now picked up 5 draws in a row, which, maybe we could have had 3 points against, probably against Newcastle, and I think all the other 4 draws were pretty much fair on reflection. Yeah. And positives, I can only speak positive about this team at the moment. For me, I can't think of a single thing that's been like, oh, I'm talking about the team. I'm not talking about who could be coming in and who might not come in. I'm talking about the team and the context of that. Joe, let's start with Parker. Parker v Mourinho, they kind of gave us hugging and coming out of the tunnel, looking all friendly and stuff. But there was some back and forth, not so much to each other, but in terms of what they said in their press conferences, it was crazy on Monday to find out we were playing Spurs on the Wednesday. I felt we'd be extremely underprepared and it might affect our defensive record, our really proud defensive record. And I feel like we could have just got slapped up last night, but proved wrong. And thank God. And Parker, you've got to give him so much credit for that.
So much credit. I mean, I think in a way, psychologically, it's played into our hands a bit in terms of the players are all up for it and Parker's up for it because we feel a little bit let down by the way things have happened and the scheduling feels really unfair. And I agree with that. I think it's really unfair. And Mourinho's comments, my head has been spinning again because honestly, Mourinho has been doing my nutting. He's going on about how we shouldn't complain, how we should apologise to no one, as Parker said last night.
Can I ask you a question? Apologise for what? I don't understand.
This is what I don't understand. So apparently it's our fault that the game against Tottenham was called off, even though it was the Premier League's decision. And Mourinho's basically, his argument is, the Tottenham team, we were all waiting to play the game. The Fulham team had travelled to the hotel. They were waiting for this has literally come out in the press. It's not us making it up. Parker has said this. We were going to play the game with what we had. It's the Premier League's decision to call it off. And I think it was the right decision, as it would be if it was Tottenham that had the outbreak. And I'm really glad that Parker went all out, said what he thought, didn't hide away from it. And to be honest, I think showed Mourinho up, showed a bit of class. And I'm so glad that we got a result last night. I think in terms of just the rival fans, it's the most I've wanted a result this season because I've seen so many opinions on Twitter that aren't just opinions I disagree with, that are just wrong. They're literally just not, they're not true.
They don't know the facts.
Saying that it's all Fulham's fault that the game got called off. And so I'm glad that we showed we don't need much preparation. We played, let's face it, they are still one of the best teams in the league. And we more than matched them. If anything, I think on the second half performance, you could say that we deserved to nick it at the end. But I think a draw was a fair result. And I'm so proud of the team.
Oh, honestly, I feel like crying. I'm so proud. But I know we haven't won or anything. But in terms of just the way it went in the media, the build-up, and look, Spurs, I said to my brothers before the game, we all sat down ready to watch. And I thought, look, their record at home against bottom 10 or the bottom half sides of the season has been poor. They've let 1-0 lead slip. They did it against Wolves. They've done it against Palace and Newcastle and now Fulham, maybe a couple of others. I can't remember. But what pleased me most is that when we went 1-0 down, I thought, right, if Spurs play their game here, they're just going to sit back. And if we bring on Lookman at 60 minutes or 68 minutes when he did come on, there will be space to run into and create chances. And what frustrated me about last night before we scored is that there was not enough men getting in the box. Remember that Ruben Loftus-Cheek chance? He was the only one in the box. Okay, Bobby Reid was there, but there was instances where we got in and around the box and there wasn't anyone there. The ball pinged over to Kenny Tete, who early in the second half. No one in the box. As soon as Lookman comes on, he creates a space. He takes on Sanchez. He gets that ball into the box. And I just feel like we took the game to Spurs because Spurs allowed us to take the game to them because of the way they play. And I think that's extremely naive from Spurs because of the amount of times it's happened this season. You know, you could talk about the Newcastle game and go, well, they shouldn't have the penalty that Newcastle got was ridiculous. It was, but you've allowed that situation to happen because you have basically invited them on. It was small margins because someone hit the post, but let's talk about this Fulham performance. I want to start with one man, Tosin Adarabioyo. Oh my goodness. That tackle on Sissoko, if I did that in a Foot Champs game to deny, I'd be like, yes, what a tackle. But mate, this guy, because Sissoko was powerfully running through our defence, and that was pretty scary. And Adarabioyo just dealt with him. Mate, we bought this guy for £2 million from Manchester City, and Eric Garcia, who's on his way out of Man City. I mean, I like Man City could do with someone like Tosin Adarabioyo, but we have him now.
It was a phenomenal performance. I mean, I was torn between him, Areola, and Harrison Reed for my man of the match. I think Areola edged it on the official club's account, but I could have given it to any of them. And Tosin has put that on the back of his shirt now, which is quite cool, I think.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
But phenomenal tackle, phenomenal performance. I think I read that he won 100% of his heading duels. Let's put it into perspective. He's going up against Harry Kane, who is not only very, very good, but very, very clever, which you've seen this season. There's been a lot of press coverage about how he wins the ball and things like this and tries to get a little advantage over the defenders. And he coped really well. I mean, we're 5 games unbeaten, 6 if you include the cup. And in that time, we conceded 1 goal from open play. And that was a phenomenal goal last night, to be fair. Great cross from Reguilon and a great header from Kane. And sometimes against these very impressive teams, that's going to happen. But you can't say that it was defendable. We didn't do anything wrong. And I feel like probably even since the Leicester game, so about 7 games ago now, we're not conceding those soft goals. We've conceded a few soft penalties, but we're not conceding soft goals in terms of from open play. It just doesn't seem to happen anymore. And this might be images that precede unfortunate events, whatever, if we make a bad mistake. But we don't seem to be making these awful errors. And at the start of the season, that's exactly what was happening. And Parker deserves unbelievable credit for the way he's turned this team around, because not just the results, but the performances, the belief. At the start of the season, we were playing teams who are nowhere near as good as Spurs, and we were getting hammered. And now we're playing teams like Spurs, and we're thinking, we could have got all 3
Could have won that. Yeah.
I know. It's unbelievable. And that's the turnaround. We should remember, we are not halfway through the season yet. We're very close. But in terms of our fixtures, we're not halfway through the season yet, and we've got plenty of time to continue this and start picking up the wins that are going to keep us up.
Yeah, and I've said so much about Brighton's fixture run. I mean, they've got Leeds coming up as well. Then they play us. I mean, but what I wanted to talk about was it's so much about this team that I love, and one of the aspects is the team spirit. In a game against Spurs where we've battled hard, Kenny Tete's played 120 minutes against Queen's Park Rangers, and then plays, I think it was like 77 minutes. Yeah. And Bobby Reid, who hasn't really had a sniff all game, sorry, mate, Tete's coming off, so you go right wing back. And Bobby Decordova-Reid now playing right wing back and like covering because Tete's probably tired, and Aina playing in that centre back role. It just fills my heart with joy. It's like it's a striker who wants to. I know he's told by Parker that's his role now, but the willingness to do it, the way he does it, and actually, doesn't really put a foot wrong at right wing back. I just love this team so much. I think that the togetherness is there. 18-19, we saw a team crumble in front of our very eyes. We'd go a goal down, and that'd be the game over. But this team, I just like 1-0 down last night. I thought, well, that's fine. We'll get chances. We will get space. And it came through Ivan Cavallero, Joe, who I have given a lot of stick to, last season, this season. I think Cavallero really annoyed me last season because he has the talent in the Championship. He couldn't quite perform at times. But this season, again, I feel like if we buy a striker, he's the one to come out of the team. But last night, great header, really good header, up against, in between 2 Tottenham defenders. That's a cracking header, honestly.
Unbelievable. I mean, both goals, phenomenal cross, phenomenal header, to be honest with you. And when Lookman came on, he did change the game. The momentum was already with us, I felt, but he just gave us that added bit of zest going forward. He was so sharp, and he left Sanchez for dead for the goal, as did Cavallero leave Dyer for dead. And I think the thing with Cavallero was, throughout the game yesterday, his work rate was really good, and he was quite skillful, and it was just the final ball. His crossing was never quite what we wanted it to be, and his finishing until the goal, he hadn't really had a chance to finish, to be honest with you, but everything between the 2 boxes was great. And I just thought, well, let's see if he can get a chance, and he did. And a header is not something that I expected, but what a header it was. I mean, Lloris is a fantastic goalie. He had no chance with this, right in the corner. Cavallero is not the biggest either, and the leap that he's got on was Cristiano Ronaldo-esque.
It was unbelievable. What Portuguese?
Yeah, well, there you go. He's obviously been teaching him some of his tricks, but I just thought, I don't know. During the game, I was thinking, this is why we need a striker, because everything between the 2 boxes was great. And I still feel we do need that striker, but it's great that Cavallero can fill in there. and can pop up with a goal now and then. I hope it's more regular than it has been, because that was his first goal from open play in over a year. Because his last one, I believe, was at Hull away.
That was literally like a year ago.
Over a year ago. And yeah, so brilliant performance from Cavalieri yesterday, I thought, and I'm so glad he topped it off with a goal, because otherwise I think it might have gone a bit under the radar. And just on your previous point, before we move on, Kenny Tete coming in at right wing back, I thought he did fine. It was quite an uneventful game for him, I thought, but he offered us quite a lot going forward, with overlapping runs in the first half especially. But what I think having him back now does is it allows us to change the way we're playing according to the opposition a little bit more. We've got quite a versatile team already, but we saw yesterday quite defensively sound with Tete and Bobby Reid's further forward. But then even though Tete was tired, I thought it was a good substitution regardless of fatigue, because Bobby Reid just fills in our right wing back and we can bring another attacker on. And we're not losing Bobby Reid. He'll still go forward, but without changing the shape, without changing anything, without losing any defensive stability, we just get that little bit more going forward. And I thought that really changed the game.
Yeah, and it's maybe a scoped conversation whether Mitrovic can be involved in this system. You know, if you get Tete swinging in balls and Mitrovic in the box doing things like Cavalieri did last night, then Mitrovic will get aerial chances. A point to be made about Robinson. I don't think last night he played particularly well. There's a lot of slipping on the pitch last night, I noticed. It was like,
I mean, it nearly cost us when Aina fell over. Yeah,
and Son went in, didn't he? So I mean, it was a weird one. It was like a slip and slide on that pitch. But Robinson, he got caught out for one of the chances. He pushed up, and then the back five basically became a back four, and then there was all that space, and then Son almost scored. That was quite a nervy chance. But Robinson, he's been fantastic. I really, really like the guy. But last night had a bit of a bad game, but a point's a point, so we'll take it. And Gisa, yeah, people were like not really on his side last night. I thought he did okay. He was just a little bit lazy at times. What was my next point? My next point was going to be that we've drawn Burnley in the next round of the FA Cup after the win over QPR. That's going to be on Sunday at 2:30, Sunday week. And Joe, let's talk a little bit about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Apparently, he was one of our best players last night. We will talk about Areola as well, but first, let's talk about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. What did you think of his performance last night?
I thought it was probably his best for us. I was on the podcast on Sunday after the QPR game, and we had a bit of a debate, which was basically about whether we thought we should send him back or not. And I was on the side of it's not really working out. We don't really know where he fits in the team. And going on that basis, we should probably send him back. And I think if he plays in the position that he did yesterday, then I start to remove that opinion. I'm not suddenly sold, and I think that he's been anonymous in quite a few of the games he's played. But when he turns it on, he looks quite good. I don't think he's our best player yesterday, but I think he offered us quite a lot going forward, and his physicality is always useful. But I think the thing with Loftus-Cheek is he has the quality, and he hasn't maybe shown it for a few years now. He had a great season at Palace and glimpses at Chelsea. And I think until now, he's almost got a bit of a free ride because of what he's done in the past and his reputation. Parker sees something in him and he trusts him, similar to Onoma last year. If I'm still being honest, if an opportunity came up and we could sign a Premier League striker on loan, I'm not sure who it is, I can't think off the top of my head, then I would send him back and get a striker instead. But I thought it was much better from him last night, and I think that's where he needs to play in our midfield three, probably as the slightly more attacking of the three, not on the wing, not as a false nine or anything like that. And I think that if he plays like he did last night in future games, obviously not against Chelsea, then hopefully you can see better things from him. I assume we will keep him. And in that case, I hope he continues to improve. I just hope it's not a case of how it was against Leicester and Liverpool, where he had quite a good game and the next game he was quite anonymous, because if he keeps the consistency that he showed last night, he'll be a really useful player for us.
I think that's a good point. I think that obviously he's out of the Chelsea game, and without Kearney and Lamina, who are both still injured or coming back from COVID, I'm not too sure, we're quite thin in terms of our midfield options. And I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek now needs to play a key role in the next couple of weeks. I think Onoma Obviously, I really like the guy, but he hasn't played enough football this season. He did fine against QPR, came on last night as well, did a bit of a job. But I think when it comes to the Chelsea game, my thinking is either we play, assuming Kearney and Lamina are still out, we play Onumar, or we play Bobby Reed in midfield, and then just have
That's
the
what I
same
was
back five.
thinking. Yeah.
That Chelsea game is really interesting. I'm doing a couple previews tomorrow with some Chelsea fans. It's going to be interesting. And there should be a preview out with Dom tomorrow on the Fulhamish channel. We should talk about that Chelsea game. But before we do, we have to talk a little bit more about Areola. I mean, a couple of those chances last night were offside. Obviously, they got the winner in at a time. And oh my gosh, that almost...
My heart
was
sank.
Yeah. Like,
I watched it back this morning on Match of the Day, and I've got to say, I hated rewatching it because I just remember how I felt when the ball went through. After being so solid the whole game, I was like, surely not.
Nah. Because once that ball's through and there's like 4 players queuing up for it, it's like, well, that's going to be a goal. Whoever taps it in.
Yeah.
I didn't even think it might even be offside. I just thought we'd conceded, and that was heartbreaking. But anyway, Areola, oh my gosh. And the best news I've heard today is that we do have an option to buy on this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, on my career mode, he goes back to PSG. I'm thinking, this guy is such a great keeper. I've got to keep him. Sorry, Rodak. And PSG are like, we want 55 million. And I'm just like, I don't have that money. So it's Rodak season in goal for me on my career mode. But in terms of real life, which is more important, what do we do? What do we do with this situation? Because Rodak was okay against QPR.
He was okay. I think what having Areola shows is that having I'm reluctant to say world class, but Premier League class goalkeeper will give to you is just calm at the back. And I never really felt that Rodak did that. I think Rodak's a very good goalie. He's still quite young, and I think that even against QPR, he has a couple of erratic moments in terms of catching crosses. His shot-stopping ability is second to none. That's never been a question, but a couple of erratic moments about coming out and claiming in the box. And Areola, I mean, 94th minute of the game yesterday, cross coming towards him, not a great cross. Harry Kane trying to win it. I was never in doubt, just plucked it out of the air, went to the floor, waited, and that's even after making a few world-class saves. And I think that's what you need to stay up. Is the best form of building a platform. Stay up is the defence, and that starts with a good centre half pairing and a great goalkeeper behind you. And I feel sorry for Rodak because he was brilliant last year, but you can't deny Areola is a step up and quite a big step up. And I would love nothing more than to stay up and get him permanently.
If we do stay up, there's some real potential here. I don't know about the Lookman situation because I know Leipzig see him as a major, major asset. I genuinely think we just be like, please let us have this guy permanently. He's so good. On the Areola case, there's been so many times this season. I remember the Wolves game. I remember the Leeds games where he pulled off some saves, and I was thinking, well, that's just a goal. And like in a usual normal situation where you have another keeper, there's a goal, and he just keeps pulling off these like ridiculous saves. You're thinking we should be a goal down here, but yeah, I love the guy. I think he's fantastic, and I'm really falling into a bad trap of falling deeply in love with loan players this season for Fulham. Even Lamina, I bloody love that guy. Joe, I forgot my point. We were going to talk about Chelsea, but beforehand, there we go. We beat Leicester. That was cool, and everyone was like, "Okay, that was a great result for Fulham." We drew to Liverpool, and people were like, "Oh, Fulham, yeah, they were good. Yeah, did well against champions. Maybe could have won the game." And then we drew last night, and now finally, we've been talking about it for weeks about how we are really quite good at football, but no one can really say it because we don't have the points to back it up. But I'm starting to feel now in the mainstream media, people are taking notice of us and going, actually, if Fulham, who have got a couple of games in hand, can pull some results together, they're a decent team. And I genuinely still believe, like, I thought this after the Leicester game, like, oh, even the West Ham game, we're quite a good outfit here. And now slowly we are starting to see maybe that come to fruition, but we just need a win to back it up. We can't be keeping scoring games. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I saw a lot of things after the game yesterday of journalists, pundits on TalkSport, BBC saying, "Oh, well, Fulham are really good today, good value for the point." And a lot of them were comparing us to, I think it was Newcastle and Burnley, and they were saying that on face value, Fulham look better. And it's the same situation where we're still quite a way behind them, 4 or 5 points, maybe up to maybe 6 or 7 for Newcastle now, I'm not sure. And it's one of those things, can we close the gap? And I think a lot of pundits are starting to think we can. And I think we can. Because if we play like this consistently, the wins are definitely going to come. I don't think you can play as poorly as Newcastle have this whole season and stay up. I think it's a disgrace that they're not in the bottom 3. I think they're terrible, and I do not want to mince my words when I say that. I don't think they offer anything. I think if they didn't have Wilson, they'd be fighting Sheffield United at the very bottom. I do not rate them at all. I think they've rode their luck. They went to Tottenham and got a point. They got their point out of an unbelievable goalkeeping display from Darlow and then quite a dodgy penalty. We got our point at Tottenham by really playing well and going for it. And the problem is that it's the same amount of points. And people go, "Oh, yeah, well, Newcastle got a point there." I think over the course of the season, it'll even out. I really believe that. And I really believe, I know you believe as well, that sort of luck evens itself out over the course of the season, more or less. And I really think that we've got a good opportunity here. Like you said, we've got great potential in this team for if we do stay up to take the options on the players and have quite a good foundation for staying in the Premier League and progressing, which means it's so frustrating if this season does come down to what happened in those first few weeks when we were just awful, we weren't prepared, we didn't have our team ready yet. And when the next win comes is crucial, because if it comes on Saturday, for example, we could be out the bottom 3 with 2 games in hand if Brighton were to lose. If it doesn't come, the next win might have to come against one of the teams around us in a high-pressure game. And that Brighton game already, I'm looking at it, is just the biggest game so far.
Oh, it's huge. And, we're going to be playing Burnley. We've still got to play them not only in the Cup, but in the league. We've got West Brom away. We've got Brighton and Hove Albion away. I still will stick to this. I'll say it right to the end of the season. Don't care what happens. We play better away from home than we do at home. And 6 games coming up, 4 of them are at home. 2 of them are away. Look, this team is they're constantly on my mind, but a team that was also living rent-free in my cranium is Newcastle. Now, Steve Bruce having a nice old moan about the penalty that Sheffield United got. Boo-hoo. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, literally, because I said boo-hoo beer, yeah. Because of that penalty that Anderson gave away, shouldn't have been a penalty. What goes around comes around, and I will say it till the end, to my dying day, that what goes around comes around in football. And it was just nice to see Steve Bruce have a little moan about VAR. I genuinely think Newcastle, who are sitting on 19 points, they lost 1-0 to Derby in 07-08. Derby went down with 11 points. They've also just lost to Sheffield United, who I assume will probably still go down, regardless if they're on 5 points. I was going to ask you about Sheffield United. I know we should be talking more about Fulham, but because they've now got that win, are you starting to be like, oh, actually, if they hit form here, that's a bit of a problem?
No, not at the moment. I mean, they always could. They've got quite a few players coming back from injury, and they haven't played awfully at times. They've been unlucky in some games. Some games they have been dreadful, don't get me wrong. But they're still 7 points behind us with a worse goal difference. They would need to win quite a few games to overtake us. And I've seen their next few fixtures. They've got some tough ones. If they're going to do it in this run, then that is seriously impressive. But I think a 1-0 win over 10-man Newcastle via the penalty spot is not too much to go on about. I mean, scoring from open play is their problem, and if they get a penalty, fine. But I think if that penalty doesn't go in, I can't see them scoring, even against 10-man Newcastle, who I think are one of the worst teams in the league. So currently, not concerned. This might come back to bite me. It might well do. You never know what happens in football. We're not even halfway through the season, and it's not the biggest gap in the world. But at this moment in time, that win has not changed my mindset.
Well, listen to this, that the 3 goals they scored to earn them the points they have so far is a VAR penalty against Fulham, a VAR penalty against Newcastle, and a deflected goal against 10 men Brighton. Oh, sorry, no, they had 10 men against 11 men Brighton, but that was a deflected, quite booky goal, and then they got a point. Is that all the points they got? Oh, maybe there must be another one. No, my bad. That's 5. That's 5. That's quick maths. Joe, let's talk the Chelsea game then.
Yeah.
Loftus-Cheek obviously out. Kenny probably still out. Mitrovic is trained today. Lamina still out. That's just news that I've got off the press conference today with Parker. This is why Fulham fans were quite annoyed about the whole, because we really feel like we could maybe beat Chelsea, and the fact that we've had to play a game on Wednesday has just maybe altered that. But I genuinely think the confidence in this group of lads is high. I think Chelsea are a team who I just can't predict at the moment. What do you think? West London derby, 5:30 on Sky Sports. Could be a big one. Well, it will be a big one.
Yeah, it's definitely a big one for us, but it's definitely a big one for Chelsea because they've been on an awful run. If we beat them, then Frank Lampard could go, which would just make my year. So funny. But yeah, I think it's our best chance to beat them in a long time. And it's annoying in that case that we've had to play that game yesterday because they will be slightly more rested than us and we might be a bit tired. But I don't want to use that as an excuse if we don't get a result. I think that we've still got a very good chance. With the team that we have available, I'm sure you'll say your 11 after, but if I was going to pick the team, and the news that we heard from Parker today was that Kearney, Lamina were out and that Mitrovic is a doubt, then I would stick with the same 11, except I would have Lookman in for Loftus-Cheek, and I would just have the back 5 that we had, Anguissa and Reed, and then a front 3 of Bobby Reed, Lookman and Cavallero. So that'd be sort of like 5-2-3. We know how it is inside and out of possession, like it's different, but I think that would be a team that I think could beat Chelsea. And I think that if we carry on playing the way that we ended the game against Spurs from the off, we've got a great chance.
I'd have to agree. I was just thinking about putting Lookman in a 2 up front with Cavallero and then dropping Reed into midfield, but actually having a front 3 would just be the same. It would work. I genuinely think that's a decent level. I think Lookman, if he gets a bit more training under his belt this week and he starts, honestly, he's such a threat that he can just get at this Chelsea team, at their fullbacks, and really cause them some problems. I will back us. I genuinely think we might draw again. We might get another point, which is fine. I think if we come out of this 2 games against Manchester United and Chelsea, having not lost those 2 games, happy days. Then we go on to some significantly more favourable fixtures against the teams around us. And people are going to be like, look at this Fulham team grinding out results against... And this is my next point. Are Fulham boring? I mean, we're not boring because there's plenty to talk about, hence we'd be going on for 33 minutes and we should probably wrap up soon. But are we boring in a sense that we are just being boring? We're not conceding many goals, we're not scoring many goals, but we're just doing enough. I mean, obviously, you can't really... There's nothing really to back this up, but do you think we will just do enough to stay up by getting and grinding boring results, which I am absolutely fine with?
Yeah, I'm really relieved that we started grinding out the boring results, because at the start of the season, in boring games like that Wolves game, the West Ham game, quite even games, but we lost both. And I don't know if we've been boring. The 2 0-0s have been terrible games, that's for sure. But other than that, I think that the games from a neutral perspective would be fun to watch. And it doesn't seem like we're just going out and parking the bus or hoping for a 0-0 or a 1-1. I'm quite surprised there has been so few goals in the games lately, because I thought the Liverpool game was an unbelievable game. Newcastle, the first half was quite exciting. And then last night was a really, really good game. So I think that eventually there might end up being more goals in the games, hopefully for us. But I would take being boring if it meant we stayed up, for sure.
No, I genuinely think the reason why we haven't scored enough is because we're lacking a striker. And look, we've got what's the date today? 14th. We're basically halfway through the month, and we need a striker in. And, there was a tweet last night saying there are conversations going on at the club every day. Tony Khan saying, but right now there's no links, there's no nothing. And it's concerning. I don't think that a strike partnership of Cav and Reed or Lookman, whoever, I don't think that's enough because we're not scoring enough goals.
No,
we talked about it
I don't think it's enough.
We talked about it last week with Josh King and Adam Armstrong, but nothing has changed since then. No rumours, no nothing. This is not me having a go at anyone. This is just me voicing my concern. I'm sure there are conversations going on. There's no doubt. That is the one area.
Yeah.
It seems like Parker's a lot more tapped in to the noise. He always talks about the noise. I feel like he knows all the noise that's going on, whether we don't rate Loftus-Cheek or the fans don't rate Loftus-Cheek, whether we need a defender and we suddenly got a defender. I know these are obvious things, but the noise, I feel like Parker's more in tune. He's got young children who might be on social media. I don't know. But I was just going to ask you about that, the noise.
The noise, yeah. Well, he seems to be more involved with transfers, which is a good start. He seems to be able to say, I want this, and we know that he probably will get it. Everyone can see that we need a striker. Like neutrals have been saying it as well. And yeah, I really do think that just getting a striker in boosts our chances of staying up by like 200%, something crazy, impossible. But I just feel that things will be happening. I know it's frustrating. I'm frustrated as well because obviously we all want it to get 1st of January. Hopefully we've had someone lined up already had the medical, sign it on the day, done. But sadly, it just doesn't seem to happen like that in real life, only in my dreams. So I was hoping we'd have someone in by Chelsea. Now it doesn't look likely. So then I think it doesn't even look like it would happen by United. I'm not fussed about the Burnley game in the Cup. But I think if we could have a new striker in by the Brighton and West Brom games, that is crucial because, like you say, Cavallero, Lookman, Reed, all been brilliant last night. Will they score enough goals over the course of the season between them? Probably not. And that little boost of firepower will give us every chance.
Just finally, Burnley at home. And then if we win that, it's Bournemouth or Crawley at home. Is there a chance we can get into the last 8?
Yeah, I think there's a fair chance. I mean, I don't know what team will play against Burnley because I think it must be 3 days after or 4 days after now, actually. No, 3. It's been moved to Wednesday.
No. It's before the Brighton game. It's
it's 3 days before Brighton. So I just mean that we probably won't play a full strength team, which is the whole point about this Spurs situation because we didn't know before the QPR game. So I don't know. I think it's a really good chance. I will be gutted if we get really far and fans aren't there. But at the same time, I would rather get there with no fans than not get there at all. And league should be the priority. I wouldn't play a really strong team in either game, even if we got through the Burnley game and we had the chance of getting into a quarter-final, I'd probably still play a rotated team. But a cup run's great for morale because I think the QPR win really helped after a period where we haven't played many games. It's been a bit of disruption. Just sort of like we've got back on our feet. We've won a game. We haven't conceded. Everyone's had a bit of playing time. And I think that was really important yesterday because if we'd have played last night how some of the players, because not all of them started against QPR, a little bit sloppy, not completely on the pace. I think you could see Anguissa had that. We could have had 11 players like that and we would probably have lost the game. So I think a cup run is important.
Joe, finally, how happy are you at the moment with Fulham?
Well, I'm quite happy. I mean, I'm never going to be completely happy until we're above that dotted line because that's what we want. But I'm really happy. We're doing a lot better than I expected. We look a lot better than I expected. And we did better than I expected last night. So if we can carry that on, we've got 2 really challenging games. Even as a worst case scenario, if we lost both games, as long as we didn't get well beaten, as long as we were in both games, obviously I don't want this to happen, by the way, but I don't think it would be anything that would be that concerning because Chelsea have been very hot and cold side. Sometimes they have been very good against teams lower in the table, and Manchester United seem to grind it out even when they're not at their best. The games that we have to really pick up wins in are the Brighton and the West Brom games at the end of the month. But I'm really happy with Fulham. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I asked that is because last night I was talking to Liam, who was on SW6 Essential, and I was just thinking about the contrast of that video we made after the 3-0 defeat and our mood now and what has been in the last couple of weeks. I have to say that I've never felt as low about Fulham after that Villa game, because we'd come up and we were like, okay, a chance to eradicate everything that's happened in the last couple of years. And it just looked like the same old story. And now we're in a position where we're competing and we look competent and we look decent. And that is down to Parker and obviously the business that we've done. But Scott Parker, I said it last night in the group chat, he's my favourite manager we've had since Roy Hodgson. I prefer him to Slav. The emotion he shows on the touchline, the animation, the constant talking to the fourth official about little things, the linesman I saw last night, I just love it. And look, I genuinely think he could manage England one day. Obviously, I don't want that to happen. I want him to stay at Fulham, but he could manage England. He reminds me a little bit of Eddie Howe, but not in that sort of we play like the way that they play, but the way they come across at the media. But nice guys. I would say media darling, but just someone who is respectful and is a chap, and I like that. So yes, I am very happy with Fulham at the moment, and that is probably where we should end it, because this has genuinely been like a podcast. I knew we'd go slightly over the usual like 35-minute mark today, because there was just a little bit more optimism, positives, as you can tell by the title. Joe, closing remarks? Yeah.
I mean, I think we've said everything really. I'm just really proud of the team, because it felt like everything was against us last night. It felt like the Premier League didn't care. It's only little Fulham, just rearrange their game really quickly, just that they'll lose anyway. And if anything, we were the better team in the second half especially, and really proud. Coming into two massive games that are going to be tough, I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say we're going to beat Chelsea 2-1.
Wow.
Because I'm really feeling good about this team, and I just feel like if we can start well, this could be when we get the 3 points.
We have to take the initiative to Chelsea. We really do, because I just feel like we need to start well, and we need to get that first goal and then see if we can cling on to it. I genuinely think we could have beaten Newcastle where we got the first goal. We could have held on to that lead if that penalty didn't happen. But anyway, I will try not to get off on a tangent. This has been SW6 Essential. It's been slightly longer today. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back, I suppose, next. we always, it's either Monday or Monday.
I think next week. Yeah.
It will be. Well, it should be Thursday, shouldn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it should be Thursday, because then we would have played 2 games.
Yeah.
Man United and Chelsea, right? Yeah. Then we look ahead we review those, look ahead to Burnley and Brighton. So Joe, thanks so much for joining us today.
No worries. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, what a pleasure it's been, honestly. It's so good. It's Fulham therapy sessions, I call it. This is generally just talking to a mate about the club we really enjoy and love, and just whether it's bad or good, right now it's great. Well, it's not perfect, but it's better.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and fingers crossed it continues, because if we're playing like this in the Premier League, then I'm all for it.
Right, yeah, we've talked about the Newcastle situation. I generally think we are better than them, but this is a conversation for another episode. Thanks so much for watching. It's been a pleasure, Joe, as always, and we'll see you next time. So come on, Fulham.